Hey guys and gals, this is Lori Gombos from Outback Motortek. On the other side of the camera is actually my dad. He's helping me record this comparison video. So once again, we're so pleased to have this video presented to you. I'm standing right next to two of the hottest adventure motorcycles in 2019. Both of them are so epic. We've been riding, we've been enjoying both motorcycles, and we're going to be reviewing the differences, our experiences. We're not journalists, we're not professional motorcycle riders. We develop parts for these motorcycles like crash bars, skid plates, pannier racks, and we just ride, and we want to present you a very simple approach to both motorcycles based on our experience. Okay, so first things first. 2 years ago, we were also pretty lucky to have two epic bikes in our shop for development, just like these two bikes, but those were back then the hottest bikes, the Africa Twin 1000 and the KTM 1090R. And 2 years ago I did a short, simple comparison, first impression video on both bikes. And after riding both bikes, now these two bikes, we have a very similar experience with these two bikes. So this is the Yamaha Tenere 700, brand spanking new, and that's a KTM 790 Adventure R. So for me, the basic approach to any adventure motorcycle is ergonomics. What does the bike feel like when I sit on it? What's the balance like? How can I squeeze the tank when I'm standing and I'm riding off-road? Also very important, a lot of people asked before in my previous video, what's my height? I'm 1.7 meters, so 170 centimeters. In feet, it's I believe 5.8. So I'm a pretty short dude. If you're a lot taller, then it might not come handy for you, what I'm going to tell you. But if you're about my height, then you will find it hopefully really useful. So first thing, I'm going to hop on the Tenere 700, and I'm going to tell you my impressions on it, being the rider. Okay, so gotta watch out for my long cable. So I'm gonna hop on this bike and just first pull it up. It doesn't feel too heavy to put it up into the vertical position. Kickstand is pretty good to reach. It's easy to reach and kick up. It's actually very light. It's got good springs on it, so it pops up easily. And when I sit on the bike, it feels a bit elongated. It's actually a narrow bike. If you come here, you will see it's actually a pretty narrow bike. It doesn't stick out too far. It doesn't get a lot more narrow up down here versus here. So when I sit on it, I feel like I'm on a very an elongated, longer bike. Feels normal actually. When I grab the handlebars, I feel that this should be adjusted, which is pretty easy. There are 4 bolts here, loosen, push them forward. We actually both have had the same experience with this angle of the handlebar. It feels like a chopper, so we'd actually go ahead and adjust a bit more. So this one feels pretty good. The wind protection, it's okay. It's not adjustable like on the 790, but up to about 100 kilometers with the dirt bike style helmet with the shield, it's okay. I even had to duck a little bit because if I straightened out my spine and my back, actually the shield got caught in the wind. So yeah, this is my impression on riding on road, on pavement. Okay, so what else? I'm gonna put it back on the side stand and I'm gonna stand up. But before I do so, I want to tell you, when we ride off-road, not just us, everybody who rides off-road, it's really important to have really good foot peg. Foot peg becomes your secondary steering device. Now on the Tenere 700, the foot peg is actually fairly decent compared to the Africa Twin. This is actually a pretty decent size. And what surprises me is the same size, actually a tad bigger than on the 790, the factory foot peg. Now, we removed a rubber insert that's for highway riding to absorb some vibrations. It's pretty easy. There's a sleeve or like a plug, and it goes in, it hooks in, it engages. You don't need any tool to remove it. When you get to your trail, you just push through it and it pops out, and you have pretty good grip on this foot peg. So it's actually a fairly good sized platform for off-road riding. This gear shifter lever, it folds in case you crash. So yeah, it's a pretty good feature. And please ignore the crash bar's spot weld. This is just a development piece. It's just a prototype, so ignore this please, but you can look at the design of it. So I'm gonna hop on this bike. I'm gonna leave the side stand out, and I'm gonna stand. And when I stand up on the bike, again, it's the same feeling. It feels a bit longer versus that bike. I'm gonna get there soon. It feels a bit longer. It's actually nice to squeeze the tank, but as opposed to the 790, this one doesn't have a good grip here when you ride off-road. Luckily, there is some on this suit, the pants, but I need good grip when I ride off-road so I can control the bike better. But it does feel pretty good when I press down on it. So those larger foot pegs do help a lot. Okay, so this feels pretty good. What I'm going to try to do here, and I will show you in the video as well when I'm riding, I like to check the balance of the bike. This bike does feel pretty good though. So I'll try to put my feet up on the foot peg and balance. This bike does not want to throw me off too hard. It doesn't feel too top heavy despite the tank being up here. So yeah, it's a good practice, by the way. Okay, so anyhow, this is for later when we want to practice. Okay. Okay, so now I'm standing next to the 790 Adventure R. This is a very different bike. Like, I gotta tell you, when we swap bikes, even on this ride, we've been swapping bikes back and forth. It's like sitting on a different motorcycle. So different. I will try to explain to you. Okay, so foot peg, like I explained, it's pretty much the same size as on the Tenere 700. The tank actually reaches all the way down here to almost to the bottom of the engine. It should give this bike a better balance, and I'm sure it does. We haven't felt this so much. We haven't felt really the difference between the balance of the Tenere and this one. When I hop on this bike, what I feel immediately is that this bike is compact. It's a lot shorter to me. The front end is a lot shorter to me, as well as the handlebar. So this bike is compact, and I think they could gain this feature by pushing the tank further down. So it does feel pretty good right off the bat. The handlebar is adjusted to a more aggressive riding style, which we didn't do. Actually, it came like this from the factory. Okay, so obviously we have the tank a lot further down. This part is very low compared to the Tenere. The Tenere's tank reaches all the way up to here, almost to the top of the handlebar. So everything is down low. When I put the bike on a side stand and I stand up, this is where everything changes. This is where we feel the biggest difference. It's almost like I'm over the tank. As opposed to the Tenere, I feel like I'm a lot further behind, and I think it comes from the fact that this bike is compact. So when the handlebar is actually almost in line vertically with my chest if I lean forward a bit more. Okay, so what else? On this bike, I can squeeze the tank better. The seat reaches up forward and a bit down, so my knee is actually hugging it much nicer, which is obviously it's a really important feature for off-road riding. And when I try to balance, so I'll put up the kickstand. This bike, when you fold up the kickstand, side stand, it's a bit easier to put it into your vertical position. But when I try to do some balancing, I don't think there is any real difference. We'll see. So I can't really hold the bike in vertical position a lot longer by controlling the foot pegs, but it's about the same. So as I explained, even though the tank's down low, the weight's down low, I don't really feel the big difference between the two bikes. So another thing I want to show you is starting up the bike and what it feels like and what it sounds like. Okay, so we're going to wait for the computer to do its thing. Looks like the fuel injectors are ready to go. I'm going to fire it up. Okay, so immediately it's obvious to your ears, and you will hear it when I fire up the other bike. This bike runs louder. It's not as smooth, but it bites immediately, especially when you start riding. Now, I gotta turn this off because actually it's a really loud engine, so it's loud. When you start riding, it feels more raw. This motorcycle just feels raw. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just how KTMs are to our experience after riding 690s and 1090s and 1290s. So this just feels raw. When you start going, there's an immediate throttle response from down low, a lower RPM, which is actually the same on a Tenere 700. So it's a very good engine configuration. Really important. We've been riding this bike a bit more than the 700. We've done some off-roading, testing our product. What we noticed, the tank, because the tank covers almost half the engine, we noticed that this bike gets hotter. We hear the fan more often, and we don't know if it's a good or bad thing. It's engineered, but we just noticed that it heats up more, the fan kicks in more. So with our product, we actually didn't want to cover more of the engine. We wanted to breathe a bit more with the bars and the skip blade being a bit more airy. Okay, so over to the Yamaha and fire it up. Okay, so I'm gonna fire up the Tenere. I'm gonna let the computer do its thing, and the fuel injector, it's really quick. It actually sounds like the computer does its thing in about 2 seconds versus the KTM's 7-8 seconds. You can hear this noise. I guess stuff is loading in the computer and to get the bike ready for running. So I'm gonna press the ignition start button. So this bike does have a very lovely engine voice. It's pretty quiet. It remains quiet. When you start revving the engine, keeping the RPM higher, it does get a bit louder, but nothing too crazy. So there's another important thing I want to explain to you is suspension between the two bikes, which a lot of people want to know about. I assume we're not suspension experts. We're not hardcore off-road riders, but we do go out for pretty decent rides. And we enjoy giving both bikes a good exercise off-road, but we haven't really found a big difference between the two suspensions. There is obviously a difference. That's a WP premium brand, and this one is Yamaha's. So there is difference depending on how hard you push the bike. We haven't found it yet. We love both. We don't feel threatened on these bikes riding off-road. Pushing it here and there, feedback is really good from the suspension, and we're just happy with both bikes setup. That one feels a bit stiffer, harder. This one feels softer, but the feedback and the experience is really good on both bikes. Okay, so gonna remove the helmet. You can hear me better. Wow. So yeah, the Hungarian heat's taking its toll on us. It's getting really hot. We've moved about 12 kilometers from one spot to another. It's about 8 miles. And I was trying to do some power slides. For me, it was much easier and much better controlled with the Tenere. As you can see, I attempted only once with the Tenere, and it was so smooth and so easy. I could follow the curve. But with this, I had to focus more. I mean, it's just a fun thing, but if you want to know my experience with this cornering, it was easier on the Tenere. Also very important, I talked about the wind protection. Now this is not my helmet, this is not my suit. I'm used to wearing an RI with a shorter shield. So what I noticed, I said earlier that the wind protection is almost the same on both, maybe better on the KTM. But now we just did a short highway section. I did some higher speed, and things have changed actually, especially with this helmet. I feel that there's more protection, wind protection, less buffeting and less noise and less wind catching the shield on the Tenere versus this one. I think this can be adjusted higher. I'm not sure how we took it into KTM to adjust it, and they did some, but maybe it needs more adjusting, but just some additional info for you based on what I've just gained and experienced. Okay, so let's move to another spot for some more comparison and practicing. All right, so it's getting really hot now. I'm gonna still keep this big jacket on me though, because what I want to do, just want to do some, I'm gonna do some rounds, trying to go as slow as I can, some controlled loop, hopefully without touching the ground or with my feet or just one foot, or going too fast. So I'm just going to try to focus on some balance and control, and we'll see how it goes. I have a feeling that both bikes are pretty much equal, or very, very close to each other in terms of balancing and low center of gravity. So let me hop on the KTM first. Guys, this is really smooth. It's really nice balance on this bike. Really like it. It's easy to read. Doesn't want to throw you over. It's not tipping too much. It's really nice. Good stuff. Bike's epic. Look at that. Everything feels in control on this bike with the suspension. The balance is really awesome. All right, Yamaha. Oh, how fun that was. Woo! Tenere's turn. So quiet. Up here. Actually, the brakes are smoother on this bike. Still need to get used to it. Bike still needs to get broken in. Let me keep going. Tight radius turns feel easier on the 790 than on this one. It takes a bit more effort for me to turn slowly around, controlling the clutch, the throttle, and the brake. But this is awesome too. I can go very slowly with a lot of comfort that I'm not going to tip the bike over. All right, do some jumping. On the jump, when I'm landing, you can really feel the difference now between the two suspensions. This one reaches its limit faster. When I landed, I heard something that I didn't really like. I think it bottomed out. It felt like there was more impact on the bike versus on the 790 after jumping, and it was not even a high jump. I think my wheels barely lifted off the ground. To try once again. It's not bad though. It's not too bad. As long as the tires contact land on the ground at the same time, it's better. But when it's front diving, it does put a lot of impact. It does put a lot of impact on the front end. So it's still pretty good. Where you can really feel where the premium suspension is winning versus the cheaper alternative. Ooh. Wow. So I don't think there's a winner here. We're not doing a competition really. It's just reviewing the two bikes based on our experience, mostly mine off-road. So in some aspects, you know, the KTM is a winner. Other aspects is the Yamaha. It really is up to your riding style and what you want to do with your motorcycle. KTM guys, they tend to push harder, taking on tougher trails. With this one, you will likely go on long distance trips. You can do really good off-roading. You will have a lot of fun on this bike. It's just simple. You can reach its limits faster versus the 790. but you can't really go wrong with either bike. It's just going to be fun for you. You're going to be smiling and you're going to be really happy with your choice. So I really appreciate you spending your time watching the review. If I missed anything, please leave us a comment. I will try to respond to my best knowledge. And go out there, have fun, and enjoy the riding season.